stuff doesn't want to work today. Okay, I get it. Who's coming with me? Coming with me in the next year. So we're talking about many people, they don't plan to fail, but they fail to plan. So if you haven't started your planning for next year, you're already behind. Welcome back to the show here. We took a quick hiatus for the holiday. Hope everybody had a good holiday. Little Thanksgiving meal.
Right on.
We say correct?
Yeah. Yeah, time to get to work. Beautiful time to be doing some planning for next year.
Well, it looks like my thing doesn't want to work for me great today, but we'll get it. Oh, there we go.
We'll figure it out.
There he is. There's Handsome.
Hey.
Yeah, a little planning. Guys, got to get ahead of the game. Everybody else is planning out there. Whether you had a good year, a bad year, it's time to start looking forward because the fourth quarter is pretty much over. You should know your numbers. What are you going to be doing for next year? And I attended a really good, we did it on the Virtue Mastermind call. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. Yeah. I attended a really good webinar by Patrick Bet-David, and a piece he took from somebody else was one-page business plan strategy quadrant, which we're going to be going over today. Looks like this, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So year 2021's coming up. 2020, not so good for some, good for others. But the new year's coming. Hopefully all this bullshit blows over. Either way, foot to the pedal to the metal, we're going to keep going. So anything you want to say, Craig?
Yeah, this year's done. Get over it. Move on. Figure out what you're going to do. You get to control your destiny. You get to decide what you're going to focus on, what you're going to pay attention to, what you're going to invest in, what you're going to spend your time on, who you're going to network with, who you're going to work with, who you're going to hang out with. Those are all decisions that impact your success. So this is the time. It's a good time of the year to be grateful, have some gratitude, and think about, what am I going to do next year?
If you're watching, say hello in the comments section below. We are live on Facebook and YouTube, and hopefully this is functioning here. We're back in the old setup here. That being said, show sponsor Virtue Health. Go ahead and check us out at virtuealliance.com. We are the self-funded specialist. Thank you to those of you who've put some business with us for 1-1. We did make a great comeback this year, and we're looking to grow very dramatically for next year. So thank you to those. A couple of you in the group here. We'll say hello in a minute. But I want to go into a little bit of this piece here and taking a look at, let me see if I can just put this up so you guys probably can't see it. I'll get it out to you guys after. But some of the things that we're going to look at is your habits and your goals. So if you got a pen and pad or you're listening to this on the replay and the podcast, go ahead and write some of these down. Some of the things that you may want to look at are financially, family, business, health, personal development, and spiritual. What habits are you going to create next year around those items, and what goals are you going to set around them? So just a quick little short intro on that. I will send that out, but let's go over to the strategy quadrant here. And looking at your business, you've got linear and exponentially, right? You got 4 quadrants here to the puzzle. Next innovative campaign and leadership development are exponential. Operating systems, biz dev are linear items. So let's jump into the first one I want to cover is operations, the fun one. Okay, so
yeah, what are you going to decide to no longer do? You're fed up. You realize I've seen the enemy and it is me. We've got to identify the things, the tasks, the duties, the responsibilities, the trivial stuff that we do that we can no longer afford to do because it actually keeps us from doing the high value things that we should do. When I did Strategic Coach with Dan Sullivan back in the mid-90s, he used to teach the courses. He invented the whole program, and it was awesome because he taught us about focus days, free days, and how to prep, how to position your business. And he talked about, you should only spend time doing the things that you're uniquely gifted at. And if you can build your practice in such a form and fashion that you can literally focus all of your time, energy, effort, and money on those things, you will find that growing your business isn't linear, it's exponential. Because when you focus on the things that are really important and you dedicate far more time and effort and attention to them, your ability to grow is dramatic. If you just do next year what you did this year and you incrementally, not transformationally, you just incrementally, do a little of this, do a little of that, then you're going to find that next December is going to feel a lot like this December and last December and the one before that. And before you know it, 5 years have gone by. Yeah, there's John holding up the monkeys, right? Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. We're just trying to tell you the truth here. Learn from years of experience doing it the wrong way, right? That's my side of the table. John is the less experienced side of the table who didn't let years of bad habits get in the way, and who discovered that if I just take action and I don't overthink it, can make a lot of stuff happen. So that's the stuff to think about, is how do we convert our operations so that I don't do things that I'm not uniquely gifted at. I can pay someone to do all of the stuff that doesn't really generate high revenue for the firm.
Yeah, we used to talk about ADO, automate, delegate, outsource, right? Look for technology, operating systems. So they say businesses fail for two reasons: either it grows too fast or doesn't grow at all. The latter seems to be the good problem to have. But can your business grow without operating systems? Meaning, time gets tight on yourself. In the beginning, you're doing everything yourself. But how can you optimize? We had a conversation with on the mastermind yesterday, and Paul mentioned something that I shared with them. They're doing calling, right? And our new CRM, our sales CRM, basically we paid somebody to tweak it up, make it all nice and fancy, where when you're reaching out to your prospects, you're able to click a button if they don't answer. It leaves a voicemail, it sends an email, and sets a task to follow up with them in 2 weeks, all with the click of a button, versus dialing the call, spending 10, 15 seconds with your voice, leaving a voicemail, then how long it takes to write an email, and then how much to set the task. That all can be automated. So that being said, he thinks he can, I think he said yesterday, he can maybe triple his production. So while this may not be exponential growth, you're talking about linear growth here. Just one example on, upgrading your sales CRM. Are you working out of a spreadsheet still? I mean, yeah, there's some simplicity to it, but does it really scale is the question.
So scaling a spreadsheet, right? Is every spreadsheet a snowflake? I mean, do you literally have to customize every spreadsheet for every proposal that you're doing? And forget the proposal. How about, are you getting paid to do every proposal? Because at least you'd be getting paid to create a snowflake, it's custom presentation. Now, most brokers scale that function and have a template that they kind of fill in the boxes with. But I think the bigger question probably is for next year, am I going to stop giving free quotes and charge?
We'll get there.
That's a different show.
It's a different show. My CRM, my agency management side, for the customer side, I would say there's prospecting one, and then there's one better for customers. They built in a quoting system that just puts it all in Excel. We used to do it manually, but the amount of time it saved me was just unbelievable. I laugh when I tell my account manager how lucky they are, because they don't realize that I used to do all this shit manually. But just one idea there from the sales standpoint: automate, delegate, outsource. What are the items that you shouldn't be doing, right? We talk about that all the time. We talk about an executive assistant, hire an executive assistant. Yeah. I had one, like to get another one. If I was centralized in one location, it'd probably be even better. But
no customer service. You shouldn't be doing customer service job functions. Okay? That you're not uniquely gifted at calling the insurance carrier to track down a claim. or order an
or
ID
negotiating a bill. We talked about we talked about yesterday answering the phone call, and I don't answer the call anymore because the people that are important, the owners at the organizations, if they have my cell phone, if they really need something. One of my owners called me today. He's laying in a hospital bed, asking me about a medication they're prescribing and how much it's going to cost and what he should do. That's a trained customer. Now he's got my cell phone.
Yeah.
If he really needs me and it's an emergency, he's probably not calling the office. So the person that's calling the office is HR or some controller that's working it, and they should be talking to your employees. And if your employee is out at lunch, they're out at lunch. You taught me that. They're going to have to wait. I set up an automated system. Hey, you're calling Questige, da-da-da-da-da, press 1 for this, that. Hey, if it goes to voicemail, they must be on another call. They'll call me back.
A quick story for you. So I've said in shows past, right, what I learned a long time ago, and I learned this from Dan Sullivan's training in the 90s, right? You train your clients or your clients train you. And unfortunately, right, we know some brokers where the clients have trained you guys and you honestly believe.
That was me.
You have deluded yourself into believing that you're so important that you have to be the one who does the work and answers the phone calls and does the response. And the fact of the matter is that I'll give you another story, right? So I bought an agency years ago, and the gal worked for this fella that I'd known for years, and she worked for him for 30 years, right? And she had a very specific style, not my style. Her style was on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being most important, 10 being least important. Everything was a 1. She literally would stop what she's doing if she got an email or a fax, a lot of faxes back then, and she'd stop and she'd get it done, and then she'd show the whole thread of the email or who she talked to at the carrier, and she'd copy them and it was like, oh my God, okay, now your clients are used to that response, so we'll keep you working on those clients that we purchased, right? But our clients, we train them to understand that there are certain things that are a 1 and other things that are a 10, and you shouldn't expect the same response. And so one of the things I taught my staff many years ago was to always sandbag the client. If it's going to take an hour, tell them it'll take a day. If you know you're going to get it done by the end of the week, tell them you'll get back to them next week.
Under promise, over deliver.
Yeah,
always.
Yeah. And they appreciate it because, clients, hey, we've probably all experienced this at one time or another. When the client tells you, you make me feel like I'm your only client. Bingo. And that doesn't mean because I responded in less than 60 seconds, right? It's not an internet lead nowadays where it's stale in 12 minutes.
Yeah, it's the greatest saying that you train your clients train you. Mine are trained now to the point where they apologize if they get a hold of me.
Yeah.
I apologize. I was trying to get a hold of Dan and da-da-da-da. Like, no, that's okay. You're still a big client. You can call me.
That's
they apologize.
You're a professional.
They know, they know that this isn't what I do day-to-day stuff anymore. Now in the beginning, obviously you do what you have to do, but they're now trained to go to somebody else, and they're okay with it because they run their business the same way. The owners don't do everything like a lot of us did. A lot of you out there probably are still doing.
Yeah. Hey, we had a talk today about BAMFAM. Remember that? Book a meeting from a meeting. John goes, I can't believe that this guy doesn't know. He's got the guy on the phone. Book the meeting. And I said, well, all right, here's what I know from lots of different training and coaching that I've paid for. People will regress to the level of training that they have. You can't expect them to perform at a level if they've never had any sales training. I work with so many different kinds of agencies, and I find that a lot of the large ones promote account managers into consultants, and they don't really consult anything. I mean, they're, here's the advantages and disadvantages. Tell me what you want to do. That's not consulting. And so book a meeting from a meeting. I said, so, maybe he doesn't know. You can't assume that everybody's at the same skill and experience level. So everybody should be, this is a great time. How many renewals do you guys really have? February 1, March 1. I mean, those got to be the slowest months of the year, right? You should be investing in yourself and get some sales training. There's so much out there, right? So you can raise your level of performance. So when you're on the phone with the prospect, you don't let them hang up without saying, oh, since I got you on the phone, why don't you pull out your calendar, right? Here's another example. I'm on a phone with a prospect the other day. The broker, not the broker record, tees up the call, says, I think it's 1,100 employees. And it turns out that the new CFO who gave him the meeting said, oh, you know what? We only have like 200 people on the plan. I said, well, this is completely inappropriate for your size company. But while I got you on the phone, now that you've heard the value proposition and knowing that you just came from another business, you could see how this would make incredible sense financially, can't you? Yeah, for sure. I said, so can you give me some referrals to the last two places you worked? And the broker got a referral to a 4,000 employee company on a cold prospect lead where our value proposition was not appropriate. Don't waste the opportunity.
Yeah, if you get the guy on the phone, I mean,
all I did was ask.
You got to take him down. Take him down for the count.
You never know where it's going to come from.
Yeah. Which leads us to, that's some operational stuff, but there's more, and we could talk about that all day. Let's move to the next one. Biz dev, relationship and sales. I think that leads right into it. Craig, you want to cover that one?
I learned in reading, right? I need to know who has as their client relationships with people that I want as my client. In other words, who's already working with the people that I want to work with, whether that's a niche, if you like construction companies or plumbers or electricians or accounting firms or law firms. If you have a niche as a broker, you go after it, right? Riches and niches. Or you're just, if they can fog a mirror, I'm talking to them. That's cool too. But the whole idea is, my preference was always, how do I get a referral? So I would go to a vendor and I'd say, it was usually property and casualty guys back then. And I'd say, how difficult is it for you when you go sell, right? What's your value proposition? Right? If it was a CPA firm, that was easy. It's like, is price ever an objection to you getting picked? I mean, you do tax, audit, and advisory work. Why does somebody fire the incumbent and hire you? And then it's like, does money come up as the issue? For the P&C guy, it's like, well, I mean, what's your niche? What's your wedge? How do you get in? What makes you different? What's your story? Right? And then I try and relate it to, can your story be improved so that your sales value proposition improves by having a relationship with my firm? Because maybe they want to sell some D&O and nobody ever buys D&O because they just don't have the budget. How difficult would it be to say, what if I could show you? What if I could find you the budget so you could afford the D&O insurance? Right? So I'm playing one off against the other to say, how can I make your sales better by knowing me and understanding my value proposition? And so you can do that with any kind of vendor who has the relationships with the prospects, HR people, controllers, CFOs, CEOs, small business owners, whatever your thing is. You just work backwards on, how do I make your business better by adding value to you? And then you're going to want to refer me. And then that's number one. Number two, probably the most important thing is you have to teach them what's an ideal client. I think I talked yesterday, right? I used to have the CPA firm would always refer us, 2 to 5 employees.
My State Farm rep would always send me
that. It's like, good. I love you, man. I love the way you think about me. But, so you have to teach people what's a good client, how to recognize it. Oh, what are the things you need to listen for? They're going to complain about this. And then that's your trigger to go, I know a guy or a gal.
Talk about making deposits too. You can't, I get it all the time from payroll people online. It's like, I sell payroll and, introduce me to your clients. Don't know you from a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
Don't
understand.
If you don't have a relationship with the COI or whoever, really good relationship, why in the world would they ever introduce you to their clients? You know how risk that is? I remember one time being in it when I first started. One of the reasons I got into self-funded, knew this advisor, and I was in his office, and he was getting screamed at by a 400 life group by the CFO because of the payroll company. And he was like, you guys introduced me to him. And it's like, I didn't introduce him. You asked me to come into the meeting to hear them, but I didn't introduce you to him. And the guy legit was going to fire him because he thought that he introduced him to. So it's very high risk to introduce. Obviously, payroll, I don't know what the turnover is like on that, because I see these payroll people's numbers, not against the payroll people, but I see a lot of their numbers every year in new sales, which just tells me it's a complete turnover industry on whatever the going rate is that year. But you've got to be very careful introducing clients. They got to be proven. It's just like us when we're introducing a program. You see, Virtue, we're introducing very few products and programs because they're proven and tested. We use them before we introduce you to them. How could I introduce something without knowing it? So if I use a property and casualty agent or my attorney or, my brain coach, whoever, I'm going to test them and they're going to be proven. I'm going to be a client of theirs before I ever introduce them to my client. So if you're going to use a PNC guy, if you're going to use a 401k guy, if you're going to use a payroll vendor, you sure as hell better have them. They better be, you better be a client of theirs before you introduce him to anybody else, because who the hell knows what's coming? You can't just play the game of, I'm going to introduce you mine, you're going to introduce yours, because how much could that cost you? You talk about it all the time on the PNC side. They don't ever want to introduce the health guy because the health guy might screw it up and the PNC account's worth a fortune.
Yeah, that's their bread and butter. Sometimes we forget, I think. I work in a lot of jumbo cases.
Type yes down below if you've been burnt by sending a vendor in. We've heard a few stories of people stealing accounts.
We forget, everybody has competing demands. So, the HR people that we sell to and through, they're nervous. They're scared, generally speaking. They don't have a lot of job security. Depending on the culture of their company, they may just be perceived as the policeman of the company. Oh, well, they do compliance, process, and admin, right? Hey, there's only two kinds of employees here. Those that generate revenue and those that don't, okay? HR doesn't generate revenue in the eyes of most C-suites. So when you recognize this and you ask them to do John's old shtick, right? Hey, they've been lying to you. They've been cheating on you for the last 10 years. We've had a nice talk for 45 minutes. Give me the broker record, right? You're asking them to take what many of them will perceive to be a really big jump, a really big risk. So you got to keep that in mind when you're, going for the BOR.
Oh, yeah. Michael Jurgen says, what's your take on certifications? I'm not 100% certain what you mean by that.
Certifications. Well, there's certifications that take 75 minutes and $75, right? I think the vast majority of them, as in 95% of them, are worthless. Okay? But I understand it kind of depends on your market and your position.
My CSFS, Certified Self-Funded Specialist?
Right.
Yeah, nobody's asked about this. Never worked, never...
Right. See, so you got to remember a lot of times what I see, and look, I made the mistake years ago, right? I'd buy all this stuff and, John's laughing. John knows.
I see all the shit in his office.
So, you go and you get all these titles, but then you don't teach a prospect to revere what it is, the price you paid, the study, the discipline, the delayed gratification of having to earn it. Because frankly, most of them don't require bupkis from you. Write a check, take a test, done. There's no credibility to that. Now, if you want to spin that as a sales tool, then make sure you talk about all those designations in such a way that a prospect would revere it and go, oh, you mean your broker doesn't have that? And then you don't have to say anything.
You want a certification, here you go. Unfortunately, the Wolf of Wall Street didn't get to speak at our event. We had to cancel it. Those that didn't sign up, you can blame COVID, but you're out of your mind for not signing up. If you read this book and you study your sales system, it's so goddamn good. I'm going to stop. I told myself I wasn't going to curse on the show. That's not that bad. Read this book.
Bullshit.
Learn the straight line sales system. It's so good. Do you need some refresher of sales? Go back and watch the interview I did with Jordan Belford of talking about sharpening your skills regularly. Forget about a certification. Another, the book everybody recommends reading, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I mean, if you could master this, I mean, I read it sometimes and I laugh and I'm just, I just can't picture myself doing some of the things, but it's so good that if you could master some of it, you would just be unbelievable.
Well, how could these books be good? They're 50 years old, some of them, right?
Oh, yeah. This one's 100 years old.
Human nature hasn't changed in 100,000 years, guys.
Yeah, and if you picked up the conversion script, that high stakes advising, I mean, this script is gold, and some of you probably have it and haven't even used it or created it for yourself.
It's in the trunk of your car.
Except, yeah, ask Paul Seeger. If Paul's, listen, ask him how much money it's made him on here. Let's say hello to everybody in the crowd here. Oh, Daniel, there's Seeger. Wendy, Seeger, how come you watch every show? You're successful. You don't need to be on anymore, right? Chris Hoffer, John Clay, Beth. There you go. But yeah, go ahead and pick this up, and your sale. Work on your sale. So back to biz dev relationships.
Hey Beth, don't be a voyeur. Always looking, never touching. Come on, jump in. The water's fine.
There you go. Yeah, coming up with ideas. I mean, I think what creative things can you do, and we'll talk about campaigns in a minute, but could you do Zoom calls this year, group Zoom meetings with other professionals, running a business professional where you're just making deposits? What do you think this show is? You think I do this for my health? We write a check for over 6 figures a year to run this show, and nobody pays us to run the show. But it's all about making deposits with everybody listening, and we get calls on a weekly basis, people thanking us for what we've done for them, what we've taught, little things they've picked up, even guys that are better than us or bigger books or whatever, just little things, or saying, hey, thanks for getting me back on track because I fell off a little bit, right? Yeah. We're making deposits. We all get distracted. Yeah, we're making deposits to eventually get a withdrawal. So could you do that in your market and call it the Orange County Entrepreneurs, and you come up with a monthly webinar, a monthly Zoom meeting, a monthly happy hour? But he's doing drinking happy hours now.
Hey, you could do what's that software? Loom? You could do Loom videos to prospects and go, boom, it gets through the filters, right? Because it's a link that buried in the email. And now people could get to know you, like you, and trust you by just sending out, instead of just a stagnant email, hoping you're wordsmithing, right? The 7 magic words. Are you still interested in Jeremiah Desmarais? You send them a Loom video. You have some intrigue. You're provocative. You give some good information. You don't ask for anything. And you could just keep working your group that way. And they would go, hey, maybe after the 2nd or maybe after the 12th. Who are they going to remember other than the incumbent? Yeah, because now time's gone by. It's within 90 days, 120 days of the renewal. It's, time to think about healthcare. Who do I know?
A monthly tip.
That gal who sent me the videos 6 times. Call her.
Next innovative campaign. I mean, it slides right over into your next innovative campaign, which could be exponential. I'm sure some of you out there. I mean, look, this was our innovative campaign. You're looking at Heads Up Advisor to help us grow virtual. We started it not thinking we were going to do that, and it turned out that it was, hey, this is a better idea to grow Virtue and the Sire program.
He asked me if I wanted to come over and have a drink. That's how it started.
But think about innovative ideas. So could you do a monthly entrepreneur? And if people don't show up, who cares? Do you have any friends that are clients, right? Some of you've probably got other business owner clients that would show up with you. Put people on there that may not be business owners. Put staff on there. Put your parents on there. Nobody has to know. Start doing it on a monthly basis. You think we had, okay, so we've got...
Who has the best ghosting story of my HR people on the call today, right? Yeah. Tell us the latest ghosting story of a new hire that you thought was going to show up for work and didn't come. I mean, you see how easy that is to just come up with a subject?
But yeah, and be provocative. Be consistent. There's 25, 30 people on the 2 lives here, and that's because we've been consistent every week, except the last 2 weeks. One was a holiday. Podcast this year, through 6 or 7 months of being out, has 13,000 downloads. The reason being is just consistency. Nobody was listening in the beginning. People, even the mastermind calls that we have for Virtue, some people haven't showed up in the 4 months we've done them, and then they're thanking me later saying, "Well, I wish I showed up to the other ones." But you've got to consistently do it, whatever campaign that is, and play the long game. We talk about the long game and the short game in your campaign. So come up with a creative idea from a campaign. I saw somebody did, waiving consulting fees. I mean, you guys are already quoting for free. Could you put out a campaign that's saying you're waiving your consulting fee for the next 30 days? One of the ideas that we're going to be doing is we have some direct contracts in certain areas, and we're going to be doing a campaign to the advisors and to the employers, because some of the brokers in those areas can't get out of their own way and not interested in selling a direct contract in their backyard. Well, then guess what? We'll go directly to their employers and tell them to have their brokers call us. So, there's interesting ways to grow exponentially through campaigns. So what type of campaign are you going to be coming up with this year? That could be based around a cold calling campaign. Come up with a shtick. Sell the sizzle, not the steak, right? So another idea I'll give you. I gave this to a few people out there, and I think 1 or 2 people have taken it up on us, is I can give you an idea. Should I give it away to them, how to get in front of 50 CFOs next year? Slip in the back door? I'm going to give it to them. Here's your $1 million idea, and I'm going to give it to you for nothing, because I know 99.9% of 100 people listening to this will not do this, okay?
Wait. Let me just give you all the excuses before he tells you. It sounds difficult. It's too hard. I don't understand. I don't have the budget. I don't have the time. My kids need me.
I don't know how to record an interview.
I don't understand technology. Yeah, make it up.
You want it? Is everybody listening?
They're all
everybody
excuses.
Write this down. You're going to create a podcast just like this. You don't even need anything fancy. You can record it on your phone. You're going to create the Orange County Entrepreneur Podcast, the Orange County Business Owner Podcast, the Orange County Go-Getter Podcast. Hence, locale that your prospects are in. Also, the avatar is, what are they? Business owner, Orange County, business owner. Hey, I'm in Orange County and I'm a business owner. I can put 2 and 2 together. So when you're naming the podcast and you're calling, this is John, I'm calling from Orange County Business Owner Podcast, and we'd like to speak to Joe and interview him and hear his story about how he built his business to where it is today. Right? Everybody loves to talk about what? Themselves. So they want to tell their own story as an entrepreneur. Everybody, hey, look, we're trying to grow the entrepreneurship community, and we know a little bit about Joe. We've read the story on his website. We know it's been around for 25 years, and we think that it'd be great to interview you to pass along this information to other young college kids or people coming out of school to be entrepreneurs just like you. Now, how many people you think are going to say no to that? If somebody called and asked you that, you're going to say yes. There's other ways you can script it, but that's just one idea. So now what do you do?
And oh, by the way, you teach that prospect or your client, oh, by the way, you can use this for your marketing.
Yeah. Another way, pivot. I mean, this goes so many way ideas. So now what do you get? You get 50 interviews. You think you could do 1 a week? You think you couldn't hire somebody to book 1 a week? That's easy. If you make the calls, everything's easy if you just make the calls, right? But you got to make the calls at the end of the day. So you now got 50 interviews with your ideal prospects. Now, how many of those 50 do you think at one point go, shit, John, what is it you do? What is it you do?
The fact that you don't ask them for anything will almost compel them to ask you, because you're not needy, you're not desperate, and you didn't ask them for anything. You're just doing this for them because they're going to get far more value. It's all about them telling their story. Hey, Mr. Prospect, give us your stadium pitch. You're in the arena. There's 50,000 of your best prospects in the room. You're right in the stadium. What are you going to say to them? That's what I want to do the interview on. You know, whatever it is.
And you bring in a photographer for $200 to come in for the hour, or a pro that has the stuff, or just record it on your phone, get a video, 4K iPhone. This thing is great. You send it a video at her. You give them marketing material now to put on their site. You pay to have somebody put that together. If you want to do that, you could keep it simple. Now think about this. If you met with 50 people, let's forget about the business. Let's see how this goes long term. Remember that business owner group you wanted to create in Orange County? Well, now you got 50 prospects that said, you know, Bob, you know, we interviewed a month ago. We actually started a little group of guys that are just like us, because I'm a business owner in Orange County just like you. And we're going to be getting together for a happy hour next month. We're on a Zoom call next month. Would love for you to join us. You've now created a group of people and relationships. Is this easy? Of course it's not easy, but it's probably easier than what you're doing, cold calling people and just, you know, crying for business, which again, you have to do. But the reality is this is a brilliant idea, and I didn't come up with it. I stole it from somebody else, like everything. But if you went out and did that, it's inevitable. And this isn't going to happen in 4 months. It's not going to happen in 6 months. Maybe you get lucky and it does. You hit a home run out the gate. Sure. But it's very unlikely. So stick to it. I mean, we're doing this 2.5 years now.
Remember, there's short money and long money. So you got to have different tactics, different strategies, depending on the cycle of when you want that cash flow.
Yeah, don't think and come with your hand out. But I mean, that is a if somebody would just, and if you do it and you're listening on a podcast, make sure you reach out to me. I'll help you if you're actually going to do it. I'll give you some ideas. Share with us if you actually do go and do it, because it's really not that hard. I mean, God, it's really not that hard to do. I mean, you can go record everything on an iPhone. You can go get a little. I'm trying to keep it simple, but you know, you could do most of it from two iPhones. Okay, get 2 lapel mics, plug it into the thing, it records it. Videotape it so you can repurpose it. You don't have to videotape the first ones. Some people get a little bit more embarrassed. You can just record it. But what you want to do right now, it's a little bit tougher going face to face. But you want to get in front of them. You want to get to know them, get a little rapport and relationship. It's more valuable to be in front of them. And most business owners right now, they're in the office, right?
Yeah,
we're in the office every day. How many people on here have been going to the office every day? So just an idea that I passed along. I didn't want to give it out, but I decided to give it out.
The key is, good God, don't talk about health insurance to every one of these people. Don't be needy. It's the number one sales tactic that you can have, is to be objective, be independent, facilitate it for their benefit. And it will inevitably lead back to you, because no one is doing that for them.
I mean, start out with your clients first, for crying out loud.
Of course.
Just start with your top clients.
Yes.
Get your best clients, give them free marketing, get them going, put some content. And
it's a great way to practice.
You put it out, and you think they're not going to share on their Facebook, and then what you do is you post on LinkedIn, you post on Facebook, then you create a group, because they're going to want to reshare their content. Other people see it, then you invite them to your group, and you slowly build a private Facebook group of the entrepreneurs that, you know, talk about things and sharing ideas, and you create your own mastermind. I mean, it's just another way to do things and get things going. But go ahead and try it. Let's move on to the next one. Leadership and development, another way to grow exponentially. So you're coming to the end of the year. Great business owner. I forget his name. Read it. I forget which book I read. But he fires the bottom 10% of the company every year. Get him out.
Jack Welch.
Is that what it is? Fire the bottom 10% and find new people to replace them.
I had dinner with him
every year.
Right? Another coaching program I was in, right? Had dinner with Jack Welch. It was awesome. And, you know, we just peppered him with questions. And he was serious as a heart attack about that, right? I take my lowest 10% performers and I cut them. Get rid of them. And he built $1 trillion worth of market value in the time frame that he led GE. So he knew a little bit about what he was doing. And his C-suite executives, something like 30 of the executives that he managed went on to become CEOs or executives of other Fortune 500 companies. Money, man.
Yeah, and what you can do is sit down individually with each person. You know the people that are the next leaders, and make your top list of whether it's 1, 3, 5, and address strengths, weaknesses, things they got to get better. Whether it's sales skills, it's talking to customer skills, whatever it is, and find out, are they going to take that next step of a leadership role internally at my organization? I keep telling them is like, look, over the next 12 months, we're going to push you to do this, and you're going to do it, and that's how you're going to make more money. And either they step up or they don't. You throw them into the fire, and you find out what happens.
Yeah, and nowadays you got to keep in mind, the different ages and the different generations that you have as employees. The people today need to see that there's a growth path. If you're a millennial or a digital and you're hiring, so basically about under 34, they need to see a visible path of growth for the progress and the learning at your company. They need to be in alignment with the purpose of your firm. So if you're still operating under command and control 20th century business terms where we have a mission and a value statement, now that's so last century, right? You need to have a purpose that's bigger than making a profit if you're going to hire digitals and millennials. So you need to keep that in mind. People join employers, but they quit because of managers. So, if you want to have insights into what's really going on at your company, you got to figure out, who are the good managers, good leaders, good trainers, because the ones who aren't are causing most of your turnover.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think you were talking earlier about certain companies, and you talked to somebody about a certain organization, and they said it's all about the leadership team. It's all about the team.
Yeah. Yeah. I asked an M&A guy, what's the number one key to you in valuing companies? He says, without a doubt, it's the leadership team. And I was floored by that. I thought he was going to give me some financial figure. But he goes, no, man, it's the people.
So just back to it, the 4 quadrants, we're going to shortly wrap up here. But these are your 4 quadrant guys to work on. And we'll get a PDF out to you guys on this, but I think from a development leadership standpoint, you got to find people that are hungry, people that are competitive, people that you can pour water on the seeds and say, look, I'm willing to invest in you if you want it. I'll do anything you want, but you have to want it. I'll pay for it. There's ROI in it, I know, but you got to want to do it. Sales training, whatever it is, go out and get it. The money's there. Movie's that from? You take it. It's there for you, gent. You take it. It's yours. You don't. I got no sympathy for you. That being said, we'll close out there. Thanks everybody for joining us. Heads Up Advisor. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Peace, guys. Be good.